Steve Jefferson Davis.
And helped Grant conquer the Confederacy.
Great crises produce great leaders.
But even the greatest leaders may not leave a lasting legacy.
The Civil War was perhaps our most devastating national crisis.
The thorniest moral dilemma to impact the war greatly
was slavery.
In wealthy Richmond, Virginia, views on the peculiar institution ran the gamut from Jefferson Davis.
In their hearts, Negroes are grateful to their owners. Their servile instincts render them contented with their lot. A strong mutual affection between master and slave is the lasting effect of this lifelong relationship.
To the Davises' near neighbor, Elizabeth Van Woodward.
Slave power is arrogant, jealous, and intrusive. It is cruel. It is despotic. It is my sad privilege to differ in many things from the opinions and principles in my locality.
Today, we examine the legacy of three Richmond leaders.
Mary Bowser was a paradox of her time. Her story begins in 1843, as Elizabeth's family buried their father in a family plot behind their impressive 3.5-story mansion.
Upon her father's death, Elizabeth's capacity for leadership began to show. In fact, her father was barely in the ground before she devised a way to circumvent his will and legally free the 15 family slaves.
Young Mary Bowser was one of them.
Mary, I need to speak with you.
Noticing her remarkable intelligence, Elizabeth acted boldly, arranging for Mary's higher education at the Quaker School for Negroes in Philadelphia.
Lord knows how I will miss you. Write me faithfully, every week.
In the spring of 1861, most Virginians, even the minority who owned slaves, believed their state would remain with the Union. However, the firing on Fort Sumter outraged many. Overnight, alliances shifted. As Richmond became the capital and center of Confederate military planning, Elizabeth was forced to hide her Union sympathies and become an outward Confederate. Despite the personal risk, her convictions soon compelled her to visit the Union soldiers imprisoned near her home.
You wish to visit the Yankee prisoners? I wish I were permitted to shoot the lot of them.
Marshall, don't I recall, didn't you once speak at a Bible convention? I believe you said, love is the fulfilling of the law. If we wish our cause to succeed, we must begin with compassion towards the unworthy.
Wow, that's very good of you to remember. All right, I'll talk to my supervisor.
God bless you, Marshall.
Elizabeth eventually used her access to Union prisoners to gather military intelligence. She mastered encryption codes and evaded detection by repurposing common household items like eggs, tobacco pouches, and even the soles of shoes to conceal information.
My dear Mary, we are now under martial law. How conditions in the prisons have deteriorated. Rooms that used to hold 100 men now are packed with several hundred, and we are barred from visiting all but the sickest of soldiers. Devise any way you can to return to us. We fear we will no longer be able to send for you in case of siege. Elizabeth.
During her visits, Elizabeth recruited spies to go in and out of living prison, bringing back out critical military intelligence under the guise of Christian charity.
April 3rd, 1864. The conditions in the prison surpassed in wretchedness my most vivid imagination. Last week, I decided the only way to save the prisoners was to orchestrate an escape. I bribed the guards to look the other way. A few trusted workers guided them through a series of safe houses beyond the front lines. We prayed for Mary's safe arrival any day now.
One day, shortly after Mary's return, Elizabeth stumbled upon a momentous opportunity.
Heavens above!
What?
Ronnie Davis just placed this advertisement.
And you think I might seek the position?
Don't you see? Davis suffers bouts of malaria that keep him homebound. His generals come to the house for all their Confederate military planning sessions.
I don't understand.
You would be perfectly placed. You are dark and smart, and they never expect the two together. Mary, if you were willing, you could work in the house and see and hear everything you can, then encode it after the house is asleep.
I'll do it, Elizabeth. Write her about
me. My dear Lorana, I'm pleased to send you Ellen, a most falters in the dining room or parlor. It pains me to lose her, but no sacrifice is too great for our glorious cause.
Naturally, Elizabeth allowed Verina to believe that Ellen was illiterate, when in fact, her recall of both written text and spoken conversation was impeccable. Verina fell for it. Mary, newly renamed Ellen Bond, was gone within the week.
May 7, 1864. I had a meeting with a Mr. Thomas McNiven, the most popular baker in Richmond. He has long been a conductor on the Underground Railroad. Together, we have devised a system for transporting military plans from Davis House to Grant's headquarters.
Delivered, bacon.
How's it coming? Those shows still proof.
Why, thank you for the compliment, Miss Bond.
Every morning when Mr. McNiven made his delivery to the Davis household, Mary volunteered for the responsibility of picking up the baked goods. In that time, she and Mr. McNiven exchanged military information.
Did you want to go and clean medicine?
Yes, Mary, did the baker make his delivery yet?
Yes, sir, I believe you don't come.
Good. When General Pickett arrives, bring up some of those lemon shortbread cakes.
Listen.
Mr. President, I have news from the field. How is it that the Union troops are already in place when we wish to attack? It's as if they know where we wish to line our troops before we do.
It happened again.
Again, this time at the Five Forks.
There has to be a leak. Ellen, bring up some of those lemon shortbread cakes now, and don't forget to file these maps once we're done with them.
Yes.
On April 9, 1865, hours before Union soldiers marched into Confederate Richmond, Elizabeth, acting on information she had received from her sources, replaced the Confederate flag flying above her mansion with her old beloved Stars and Stripes.
It's time to show the world our true allegiance. Raise the flag.
An enraged mob gathered outside her mansion, threatening to burn it down.
I know you, and you, and you. General Grant will be in this city within the hour. If this house is harmed, your houses should be burned by noon.
General Grant did arrive that day, and after drinking tea on Elizabeth's portico, he thanked her for supplying him with the best intelligence he had received in 1864 and 1865.
With the Confederate surrender, circumstances changed greatly for our three leaders.
I suffered death threats, ostracism, and financial ruin.
Her legacy, along with most records of her spy work, seemed destroyed.
Quietly, her surviving followers gathered her remaining journals and correspondence and petitioned the government to honor her legacy.
Finally, 93 years after her death, she was inducted into the Military Intelligence Hall of Fame.
Mary Bowser continued her spying until the final days of the war, when Davis began to suspect there was a mole in his home, at which point Mary fled.
After the war, Bowser left Virginia and taught hundreds of former slave children how to read.
3 years after Elizabeth's recognition, the government honored Mary as well by inducting her into the Army Corps Hall of Fame.
Once venerated for his political genius, Davis is today remembered as a misguided racist. His legacy totally tarnished by the flawed opinions he promoted in his heyday.
What is real leadership? Can we be certain of anyone's legacy before it has stood the test of time?
In our era, Elizabeth and Mary's moral clarity would have been hailed.
That they were hated or thus forgotten in their own time.
Antithetically, Davis, a man whose bigotry knew no limits, was a hailed hero in his day.
These cases raise the question.
Without a clear moral vision, will leaders who today bask in the adulation of millions still be respected a century from now? And
are there even now, all among us, leaders like Elizabeth and Mary,
Far-sighted.
Clear thinking.
And uncelebrated.
quietly working for causes that our descendants will condemn us for not supporting?